Hi everyone, Lee Pacchia here, and you're watching The Business of Law, the only web TV show focusing on the challenges and the opportunities facing the legal profession. In studio today we have Anita Shapiro. She is the president-elect of the Practicing Law Institute, PLI for short, and we are talking about continuing legal education today. Really interesting topic. Glad to have you in studio. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Lee.
So I've known about PLI since I took the bar exam, so that's about, I don't know, 7 years ago now. How old is the organization? How long has it been around?
Sure. PLI was founded in 1933, so in fact we've been around for many years. And most of us know about it because we've graduated from law school and we've found that we need some continuing education. But the continuing legal education space has changed over time. At the time that PLI was founded in 1933, Howard Seligson, who founded PLI, really felt that there was a need that when you graduate from law school and you go into practice, there's a gap there. How do you take the concepts that you've learned in law school and actually apply it to the practice of law? How do you get from the contract to actually drafting the contract, or the real estate transaction and understanding all the documents that are involved in that? Or for litigation, how do you take the skills that you've learned and actually put it into the courtroom? So that has changed since then to become a mandatory requirement in many states.
Right. We were talking before. I was surprised to learn when CLEs became a hard requirement in New York. It's a relatively recent thing.
Yes, it was approved as a requirement in 1998. By 2000, attorneys in New York had to start reporting their credits. So the question I think that arises because of this is, well, given that it wasn't mandatory until 2000, the reporting period, people were still coming. I mean, it was started in 1933, so what was that about? And I think what the Practicing Law Institute has really provided is a platform for attorneys to stay on top of developments in the law, not as a requirement just to fulfill credits. And for all those years, practitioners would come and learn about developments, whether it was tax law or securities law, and that was important for them to keep the level of practice high and for clients to see the values that they were bringing to the table.
So the concept and the debate, the debate around the concept of bridging the gap between law school and bringing people up to speed where they can go out and practice law has been something that's been churning in the media for quite some time now, certainly as long as I've been paying attention. Why do you think that this is something that keeps coming up? It apparently hasn't been resolved, or is that a fiction that's just been created by the media?
I think it's a good question that you're asking, and I've also seen that it's in the media more than ever. I think there's a number of factors involved in the issue and the debate for that matter. One is that the traditional law school method of teaching, the Socratic method, still exists. That is part of how law school is, the concepts are taught. What we are seeing now is when law students get out, even at the best law schools in the country, some of the fundamental tools that they need to practice are missing in that curriculum. I'll give you an example. Many law firms today are concerned that their associates are not familiar with how to read financial statements. Well, the business of law, the concepts behind you're representing a corporation, understanding accounting principles, they are all involved in the practice of law. So you have someone who's graduated and is unable to really fully apply that. The client today is requiring a whole new standard of value from the firms and from their associates. What they're looking for is a practitioner who can come to the table and meet with them, not only understand their legal issue, but they want to know that that associate understands their business and their industry. And that's where there's a bit of a disconnect. So while they may have learned about the law, the concepts of the law, the actual application to, I see you're in the energy industry, I see that other competitors are doing X, Y, and Z. Here's what I advise you to do. I have an understanding of your business. I have an understanding of your business issues and challenges. Takes you to a different level. So they're pushing the envelope and demanding more. And I'd say also the other issue is they are now unwilling, as you and I both know from the media, to foot the bill for that learning period. And it didn't always, that wasn't the model before. I think there was a period of time where you were training and you were being mentored and the clients paid for that. I think today it's a very different model.
Right. Clients clearly don't want to pay at this point for on-the-job training. Projecting out 2 to 5 years from now, where is that debate going to be? Who's going to be paying for this?
I think that firms want to be sure that their attorneys get the professional development that will allow them to properly represent their clients. And in terms of who will foot the bill, it's a tough question, but the firms have clearly embraced professional development, whether they're doing it in-house, whether going to a provider such as the Practicing Law Institute. In fact, I think it's something that keeps the firms in a bit of a competitive standpoint. I think that associates look at a firm and say, what kind of training will I receive? I even heard, I think it was about a week ago, that some of the insurance companies that write professional liability insurance ask firms, what kind of training do you have for your attorneys? Because we're underwriting this and we want to make sure that you're preventing liability. But it's more of the retention of this firm. What are you doing with your associates to be sure that when I hire your firm, this associate is ready to take on these matters and has been trained already before they come to my office.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to look at because clients' needs are changing all the time, and we live in an increasingly complex global economy. That said, let's turn to the pipeline of talent coming out of law schools for a moment. It's something that's also in flux over time. Where do you see the trend line heading? Are students or graduates coming out of law schools more prepared, less prepared than they were in the past? Or is it something I'm looking at completely wrong? Is it relatively static over time?
I don't think it'll be static. I think many of the law schools are addressing it. We're seeing a decline in law school enrollments. We're also seeing the increase in law school tuition, which is of great concern, and a really tough economy for law school graduates. So what you're seeing from the law school front is there are many law schools who are now starting to do more pro bono work, requiring their third-year students to get involved with some pro bono organizations to really get hands-on experience before they've graduated from law school. In California in particular, they've started doing incubators where students are participating in some of these projects, and it's a hands-on skill. Certainly wasn't around when I was in law school, and I think it's a terrific opportunity for them. And what we see at PLI is we see a very different, the profile of the new attorney coming out of law school is very different. You have to think about how technology has played a role. Back when we were in law school, probably maybe not when you were in law school, there was a law library that had tons of books and you were going to digest and shepherdizing. That doesn't exist in that format anymore, and so people were used to getting onto computers. Now they're used to using lots of technology beyond their work life in terms of social media, and how do these things fit into the learning experience. So what's very exciting for me, being in the education space, is to see how PLI can use technology to create a learning environment where an associate doesn't feel that they're there because they're compelled to go, because they have to meet certain requirements, but in fact they're somewhat excited and sit back and say, you know, this is not only interesting, it's sort of exciting, and I'm actually learning something, and I'm happy to be here. We'd be happy if that happens, and I'm sure they would too.
So you're about to take over an organization that's been around for a long time and has seen its business model evolve over that period of time. Your predecessor served in this role for 33 years. You're going to come into the organization in an official capacity in April. What's the first thing you're looking to do? We're
really honing in right now on the technology. And one of the things that we're doing is creating more interactive learning. And we find that people really feel much more immersed and engaged when they're doing that. We created a simulation of an internal investigation actually based on game theory and gaming. People now are into that kind of thing. And you make certain choices about how you're going to handle the internal investigation. There are certain characters in it. You have the attorney, you have the complainant, and we've used it in a couple programs. It wasn't really designed for a program setting, and I've never seen more people engaged and speaking and talking, and people who are compliance officers saying, well, I wouldn't handle it that way at my firm. This is how we handle it. And somebody else says, no, well, my company would handle it this way. And now what you find is people are no longer learning because it's somebody lecturing in front of them. People are also learning from their colleagues. These are more experienced practitioners, but that type of engaged learning, which we see a collaborative learning environment, is a very, very different one than we're used to from the traditional, as we would call, talking head from the professor who's lecturing.
Yeah, it's a very different experience from sitting in a lecture hall listening to a 2-hour performance.
Yeah.
Anita, thank you so much for stopping by today.
Thank you, Lee.
That's Anita Shapiro, President-elect at the Practicing Law Institute. If you'd like to see more of the stuff we're working on, be sure to go check us out online. You can find us at mimesiswebtv.com. You can also find us on YouTube and Twitter. I'm Lee Pacchia. Thanks for watching.